Politics, commentary, entertainment, sports, news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I'm shocked that policy and politics are at work in Washington, but that's not what was going on. What was going on was trying in the midst of what, frankly, was the fog of war to figure out what had happened.
You famously said whether it was a protest or a group of guys walking out and deciding to kill some Americans.
What difference at this point does it make? That's right.
Does it make a difference?
In the moment, it did not. In the moment, what we had to be focused on was saving American lives.
Does it make a difference now? Do you want to change that? Do you want to?
No, I don't.
All right, she doesn't want to change it. Welcome back, folks. It's time for the Malzberg panel. You know it, you love it, you got to have it. And joining us on the panel is Ron Christie. He's sitting here, as is Rick Ungar. But Ron, of course, a former special assistant to George W. Bush. And Rick Ungar, the co-host of Ungar. And come on, Rick, help me out here.
Steele Ungar.
Steele Ungar, Michael Steele.
Got to get Michael first.
Rick Ungar, yeah. And, of course, that's on SiriusXM radio. I'll get it straight. All right, gentlemen, welcome aboard. All right, so Hillary, given a chance by Diane Sawyer to take back the what difference does it make, says, no, I'm not going to take it back. You know, it was the fog of war. Fog of war, Ron.
Well, fog of war, I think she's having a fog of a book tour started. It seems like she's had an inauspicious beginning. This is one thing that you would suspect that the Clintons, if they've had all these months to prepare for her book launch and her potential presidential run, she would have had a much stronger, a much more cohesive answer about what difference it made. What difference it made is that we left 4 Americans to die. There were 4 Americans who could have had the opportunity to have been saved, rescued, had support perhaps sent in, and she still, to this day, Steve, unfortunately, doesn't really account for where she was and what she did that night.
And what about it, Rick?
Look, I'm going to say what I've said from day one of this whole Benghazi thing, which is there's much more than what meets the eye here. Well, I won't say we'll never know, but we couldn't know at that time because this is a CIA operation, and they cover up CIA operations. If you have a problem with that, you're going to be unhappy about Benghazi. If you agree that some things the CIA does should remain secret, then you probably shouldn't have such a problem with Benghazi. The result was awful, to say the least. There's more to it.
All right, but for campaign purposes, I mean, she's going to be put out there by the Republicans, if they have a brain, sitting there saying, what difference does it make? And then they could now juxtapose it with, do you want to change that? You want to take it back? No. I mean, I don't understand what would make her say that, Rick.
Well, I mean, is it a great campaign ad? It is for the Republicans, as you said, when they show her testimony. Look, if you want to understand what she means, it's not that hard to follow. If you want to see it a different way because you don't particularly like Hillary Clinton, then you're going to say, oh, she just didn't care. What difference does it make? I think what she was saying, and it was always clear to me, what difference did it make in that moment? It happened. What was important indeed was making sure that these things don't happen again. That doesn't mean she didn't care. I'm not quite sure why it's important where she was that night. I'm pretty sure she wasn't in Benghazi. You know, this is something that happened that we just aren't yet allowed to know what the CIA was doing there. But, you know, I always say to people, ask yourself this question. It's a small nation. We had an embassy in Tripoli. Why were we in a small little place called Benghazi? That's not the norm for small countries. What exactly was going on there, and does it occur to you that there may be a reason that they can't tell us?
Absolutely, but that doesn't excuse the lack of security. That doesn't excuse staying when every other country left, and that doesn't excuse staying when the Red Cross pulled out, and when they put on their website, Al-Qaeda, that they were going to kill everybody.
CIA does not deal with security.
And the Brits, too. Look, there's a lot more to this story. Why was the Secretary of State, now Rick says perhaps it's a CIA op. I think what the real difference that Americans want to know is, why would we put people in harm's way, particularly in one of the most dangerous regions of the world where we did not have adequate security to take care of our people? That's the difference of what it makes Secretary Clinton. And that's why people want to know, and this is not going to go away, Rick, because the Obama administration, their first excuse is to blame, spin, lie, and go back to blaming rather than being truthful with the American people.
Except that I have to point out, and I know you'll agree, Ron, we put the CIA in severe harm's way every single day of their missions, and they do it without security. In fact, they often do it all by themselves. So if you look at this, and I could be wrong, by the way, I'm the first to say that this is my surmising what makes sense given the fact that we were in this little town there. Why were we? It's CIA does not operate with a lot of security because what they do is done in secret.
But we're not,
you start bringing in security, it's not secret anymore.
We're not just talking about the CIA. The CIA field operatives are trained to do covert operations. What we're talking about is the first U.S. ambassador since 1979 to be assassinated because he was in a spot where he shouldn't have been. And I think the American people deserve to know what happened.
I think they're going to find out. And I think what they're going to find out, just on the information I've been able to gather without disclosing too much, they're going to find out, first of all, most Americans don't realize is that the ambassador was not stationed in Benghazi. The ambassador was stationed at the embassy in Tripoli. He was the ambassador to that country. He happened to be there that day. There's more to that story too, which I think is going to come out. There was a reason why he was there that day, but I think most Americans assume that this is where this ambassador lived. This is where he hung out. It's not.
All right, let's listen to something else Hillary had to say. This is 45.
What I do not appreciate is politicizing this at the expense of 4 dead Americans. That's not what we used to do in this country. When 258 Americans were killed in Beirut in 2 separate attacks, people mourned, people were shocked. Decisions were made, bring them out, you know, strengthen the embassies.
Is that another reason not to run?
No, actually,
Just too much?
Actually, it's more of a reason to run because I do not believe our great country should be playing minor league ball. We ought to be in the majors. And I view this as really, apart from even a diversion from the hard work that the Congress should be doing about the problems facing our country and the world.
So Congress is focusing on Benghazi because they can't do the right. It's a vast right-wing conspiracy, in other words. But I love the baseball analogy from someone who doesn't know anything about baseball again. And, you know, it's just, she quoted from her book, Ron.
Yeah, she did, and she calls this a diversion. The only reason that this is a diversion for Secretary Clinton and the Democrats is that they have lied consistently. They have not given over documents to a lawfully subpoenaed request by the Congress, and they now find themselves in the situation where they have a special committee looking into this because the administration has refused to be honest. And it's not about what Rick's saying about the CIA, it's the fact that Secretary Clinton has created her own political hot potato here.
All right, 15 seconds, Rick.
I actually think the most important sentence of what she had to say there was playing small ball with this, because I think key Republicans in both the House and the Senate know exactly what happened in Benghazi, and that hasn't stopped them from trying to make political hay.
All right, when we come back, we have one more remark by Hillary, which may be the worst of all, the most hurtful for her campaign. And we're coming back with the panel, Rick Ungar and Ron Christie. But if you want to reach us and talk about this or anything else on social media, email, Facebook, Twitter, here's how.